I didn't think that there was even a chance that Briscoe won that race. And he continued to save fuel, he continued to run out front, and he did win the race. And um, I don't know, that something about that doesn't really sit great with me.
Following is a production of
The garage area.
All right, welcome into the garage area. We're on Zoom this week just due to my schedule and trying to keep things moving along on the home front there with that project so that we can be recording in person every week. Um, I figured if we had to take a step back and talk about the race this weekend on Zoom, this Pocono race was a good one to do that because there was, boy, there wasn't a whole lot of action on the racetrack this week. Um, Chase Briscoe ends up getting his first win with JGR, his first win of the season, first win in 2 years for the 19 team. And this is exactly 1 year from where Christopher Bell made the announcement that Chase Briscoe would be coming to JGR in replacement of Martin Truex Jr. Uh, First win in a long time for those guys. I'm sure that they're excited to get back to victory lane. Chase Briscoe has actually been to victory lane more recently than the 19 team. That is an interesting stat and one that I didn't think that we would have to ever discuss because of how fast the 19 car typically has been week in and week out with whoever's been behind the wheel. And uh, good for those guys to finally get a win. I don't know what you thought of the race as a whole. For me, it was, I guess, I don't know how to. It almost felt like a restrictor plate race back in the day, to where it was like, yeah, it doesn't really matter who's leading right now. It's kind of all who's going to pit when, who's going to get grouped with who, and then who's going to be up front at the end. And that is really how the race played out. And I would say that last caution with about 30 to go, um, when the restart took off there and Hamlin didn't get the lead, I thought, well, now we're going to get to see Denny go up there and pass him for the win because A, I didn't think that Briscoe had enough fuel to get there. And B, as I was watching those laps close down and Blaney and Hamlin were catching Briscoe, I was like, even if he doesn't run out of fuel, the 11 and 12 are going to pass him, and one of those two are going to win the race. I didn't think that there was even a chance that Briscoe won that race. And he continued to save fuel, he continued to run out front, and he did win the race. And um, I don't know, that something about that doesn't really sit great with me. I'll start off by saying that Pocono ever in the entire time that I've watched races at Pocono. Never really been a big fan. It's a race that if I had something else to do that day, I didn't feel bad about missing it. It's just not an exciting racetrack, and I feel bad about saying that because I believe it's the only track on the schedule left that's an independently owned track. It's not owned by NASCAR or SMI, and they put a lot of effort into putting on a good show there. And from what I understand, the place was filled up this weekend with fans in the infield and in the grandstands. And I think it's a good weekend for the sport, but as far as watching it on TV, it's a snoozer, man. You know that it's always going to be a strategy race. It's always going to come down to fuel. And when you mix in the Gen 7 car, the dirty air, and not being able to pass on top of that, oh my goodness, you just want to hit like skip this episode on the remote and take me on to to Atlanta actually, as we got that coming up next. I don't know. What do you think of the race?
Yeah, it pretty much you could tell it was they were basing the race off of strategy. There was no real true performance based fight for the lead. Or I mean, they would try, but there were zero green flag passes for the lead. Everything was about putting in the right amount of fuel at each pit stop to optimize the amount of fuel they could put in on the next one, or vice versa. And it was pretty much on that last restart, whoever started out front first was going to win the race. Now, Chase Briscoe, I mean, obviously with him saving fuel, and when they said how much short he was, I had thought no way he was going to make it. Of course, that caution knocked off a few laps for him, and when Shane spun out. Um, but they they said he started running faster lap times while saving fuel, but you could tell there was a couple of times when Hamlin would make a run at him And once he got anywhere near close and Briscoe shut off the air, you just seen Hamlin shoot up the track. And yeah, it was just yeah, I mean, I think asked me about this at the end of the last show, and he said, and I kind of thought it was going to be like the Michigan race where they just wait till the earliest moment they could put the fuel in to get to the end and try and air block their way to the win, and that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah. Do you have the results pulled up?
Yeah,
I know that there were some guys that performed exceeding my expectations. I think John Hunter Nemechek finished up there pretty high, didn't he?
yeah, he finished sixth.
Are there any other names that stuck out to you there that guys that had good runs that you weren't expecting to?
Um, you could say Chase Elliott. He finished the top five on an oval instead of just getting his top 20s. But um,
Well,
yeah,
the only issue with that is that you're such a negative Chase Elliott fan that he normally probably doesn't run that bad, and you just constantly have a negative outlook
yeah.
on his race. Are you ready for like Rick Hendrick to be fired yet, or is it just Allen in the spotter that you guys want gone?
I don't know at this point. When he's out front, he's fast, but once he gets back in traffic, it feels like it's hard for him to get to the front. So, however strategy played out for him, he got up front and he didn't have the fastest car today, but or yeah, the other day, but um, he had a top five car, and that's where it finished. So, but I mean, Eric Jones finished 13th because we were talking about legacy. You know, they have been improving lately. I've seen them run up front a lot more. Um, I mean, Daniel Suarez with a top 15, but I think everyone else I kind of expect to be up there. The only other argument you could say is Chris Buescher because he's been struggling, but obviously I think at Michigan he was fast. So, you know, maybe their RFK as a whole, I think I don't know if it was the last couple of weeks or two of the past few weeks, they had all three cars in the top 10. So, um, I don't think there's anything too surprising about the top 10 other than maybe people that are not there, like Kyle Larson or no, Kyle Larson did finish seventh, so never mind. Um, but nothing too surprising to me.
I wasn't surprised at the fact that Busher was up there because he's won at Pocono before, and I feel like this is a Chris Busher type of racetrack for whatever reason. I don't really know why I feel that way. It seems like that to me. Um, for all three of the RFK cars to be up there, that did surprise me a little bit. Not so much with Brad, and they kind of gave it away a little bit a couple times over the course of the day. He he came down pit road when pit road was closed. That'll set you back a little bit. And he encouraged his team to, keep their heads up and let's keep fighting. And he wasn't in a position, I would say, to win the race, but he was in position to be in a good spot on that final fuel strategy or pit strategy sequence there. And his crew chief told him, come down this time. And he said, give me one more lap. And he ran one more lap, and the caution came out when SVG spun out, and he got trapped by that caution essentially, and still managed a good finish out of it. But he really threw away a good opportunity to have a great finish. I doubt compete for the win, but somewhere in that vicinity, and just unfortunate for those guys. Speaking of other organizations that didn't fare too well, 2311, just a bad day for those guys. What was it? Because I heard tires, I heard brake rotors, I heard just brakes in general. What failed for those guys? Do you know?
As far as I know, it was the brake rotors, all three of them. Reddick's never fully failed, but they changed it precautionarily. I put him a couple laps down. He didn't quite make both of them up, but the other two cars, they just failed on them. Which is odd because I believe that's one of the parts that are the same on every car. I think they might be allowed different brake compounds, but I think Denny said something about it being they think their cooling was setup was different than everyone else's. But that's all what there is to that. They were the only three cars that, well, I guess McDowell had the issue too, but it was just all three in one organization and they all went, and that just kind of is usually pretty odd. Usually you still have have at least one car that makes it through the day, but all three of them had issues.
Yeah, that's true. So with taking all that into consideration, let me ask you this. My pick this week was Denny Hamlin. I thought for sure he was going to get the win, ended up finishing second. Um, I actually, because we didn't do a preview video, I had the post-race video all prepared in my head where I was going to be all excited that my pick, Denny Hamlin, won the race and then be like, oh, Denny Hamlin won the race. And you live long enough to become the villain, or whatever that saying is. Anyways, uh, Denny finished second. Your pick, you had Carson Hocevar, right?
Yeah,
Finished 18th.
yeah.
Just not the day that you were anticipating him to have. And I didn't think it was a bad pick. I thought that he had an opportunity to run up front.
He
What
did
happened?
he did run up front for a little bit. The funny part was he was running right behind Ricky Steinhaus Jr. there in fourth and fifth or whatever. Um, but yeah, he had one real big save in the first stage. I was hoping that Denny Hamlin would like flip the stage, first stage, and Carson Hocevar, which is near the cut line, would have stayed out for points. Since our polls together are based on the points they earned, and that complete opposite happened, and you gained all the points in the stages. But yeah, he ran up top five there, and then I think he was running near the top 10, and then he got shoved three wide in turn three or something like that, and he dropped like outside the top 20 or around the top 20 and just couldn't make up from there to the end of the race. So um, he still didn't have the fastest car. He wasn't going to win the race based on the speed of his car or nothing, but I think he had a top 10 car. But that just kind of getting out in the dirt in turn three, I don't know if it heated up his tires or got dirt and just never could recover from then at the end of the race. So,
Speaking of Carson Hocevar, he got fined by Spire Motorsports this week, based on his comments about Mexico, and you explained that on the show last week. Um, Fair or foul for Carson, you think? Like, do you think he got over penalized, or do you think that he got what he deserved?
um, I'm kind of torn on this because to me, what he said was free speech. You can say well, your opinions and what you think, and of course, he probably stated as fact. And if he learned different when he went down there, and his apology was true, then sure, whatever. He also has sponsors that he's got to put a show or put a I don't know what you call it um got to I can't even think of what you would call it, but he's got to put on his act for his sponsors, and if if there's something there, bashing this or that, because evidently one of the sponsors was a Mexican type sponsor for that weekend or a Mexican company. So, I mean, I think maybe I'll just I'll just say fair for that. I don't really like that you can't have free speech, but there's also a point where you have to, you know, think about your sponsors and the light you're putting them in.
Yeah. Am I frozen right now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Okay, that's okay. Nobody needs to see me anyways. Uh, yeah, I think that the it's not so much a freedom of speech thing for me because you are right. Like Carson Hocevar represents brands. He represents Spire. He represents whoever is on his uniform that week, and because of that, you are then subjecting yourself to their ideas and saying that, you're willing to be taken under their umbrella, which if you start running off at the mouth about stuff like that, that's a poor representation of their company. I get why they feel the need to reprimand you at that point. And so I guess I would say it's fair. I don't necessarily like that Spire took that hard a stance. But hey, you drive for Spire, you got to play in their sandbox. Just like you drive in NASCAR, you've got to play in their sandbox. It's the same thing at a smaller scale, in my opinion. So, yeah, I don't love it, but it's kind of is what it is in that situation. I don't love it that it had to happen, but I do think that it was well within Spire's rights to do that. Did you think that Denny had an opportunity to pass Briscoe at the end? Like, were you anticipating him to get the lead and the win?
I really thought he would. I had full faith that either Briscoe had to really save a lot of fuel because they were talking about multiple laps down, not just like one lap throughout a 30-yard run or 30-lap run. We're not in football, but um, he, but I mean, once it started getting like 10 to go and, you know, Prime had their fuel usage and stuff like that, and meter fuel lap. I don't remember what it was really
Thermal.
called, um, but it just got more and more apparent. You know, the crew chiefs were getting more and more confident and just keep doing this, keep doing this. You're doing great. And every time I saw Denny get in the wake and move up the track because he couldn't keep the downforce on his car, it just came more and more apparent that it was going to be pretty difficult for Denny to get by him.
Yeah, I agree. Um, like I said, I thought for sure that Denny was going to pass him, and then as I saw the margin close and close and close, and then Denny would slip off the corner, and it would be widen back out, and he'd make another charge. Um, I will say that on Denny's podcast, he talked about trying to mind the gap to Blaney a little bit, and hoping and kind of waiting for Briscoe to run out of fuel. And I thought he was doing that. Like when I was watching him, had every ounce of faith that Denny was going to pass him until probably three to go. And I was thinking, he's just waiting. Like he's that veteran guy. He's just going to wait until either Briscoe makes a mistake or until he runs out of fuel. Because why would you put all that effort into passing the 19 if he's eventually going to run out of fuel? And if you don't manage to make the pass and Blaney gets a run on you, now you've given up that spot and the 19 could run out of fuel anyways. And instead of finishing first, finish second behind Blaney. So even in the moment, and I was glad that Denny touched on that on his podcast, that was my thought is, well, Denny's just waiting for the prime opportunity to make a move here. And that just never came because Briscoe didn't make any mistakes. And the air is so dirty that you can't pass anyways, which that's a huge problem for me. But with all that being said, what is your rating of this race?
Um, I'll just put it at a five, I guess. I really don't have anything more than that. I mean, I don't want to take away from Briscoe's win because what he did was still impressive, saving laps of fuel and outrunning Denny. But just overall, just these cars and the top three just running one, two, three. It wasn't really much of a fight, so I'm just gonna go five.
Yeah, I got nothing against Chase Briscoe. Happy for him, happy for his team, even though it's a JGR team, all that stuff. I'm gonna give it a four because I can deal with a fuel mileage race. I can deal with a Pocono race. I can deal with it being hard to pass. But you mix all those things together, what did I have to look forward to out of that race? Nothing. There was nothing enjoyable about the on-track product there. So I even think a four is high. It just there was a little bit of entertainment at the end, I guess, thinking that Hamlin was going to pass him, and that's only because I had Hamlin picked for the win. But oh, I mean, it's a four for me, and it doesn't. I think that's probably plenty high, and even in the Jeff Gluck poll, I think it's like topped out at a 48 percenter. It's bad. It's 13 out of 16 Pocono races in the poll or something like that. Just not a good race in my opinion. What's that do for our point standings with each other? With my pick finishing second and yours 18th.
I believe I now only have 6 points on you, so it's anybody's game at this point.
What a comeback! Just phenomenal. They're going to make an ESPN 30 for 30 about this one day, talking about, the mid-season comeback, overcoming the miles and miles of deficit that I had at one point, and finally closing in on the lead and eventually taking the lead, which I will do. Uh, looking forward to that tremendously. Uh, it's what gets me up out of bed in the morning. I don't know if you have anybody in mind in particular, but I think I've already got a good pick for Atlanta.
A Penske car?
No,
No,
who are you thinking?
I don't know. I'm between a Penske car and a couple hundred cars.
Couple hundred cars. I want Brad Keselowski.
That's a good one too.
That's who I'm kicking around at this point. Obviously, we'll have official picks towards the time of the race itself. Saturday night race this week.
Right.
Looking forward to that. Hoping that we get to watch it together. Maybe. Um, Not sure if that'll all work out, but that'd be cool. Um, Anything else you want to talk about from the on-track action at Pocono in the Cup race?
I don't got nothing else.
The Xfinity race, Justin Allgaier wrecked Chase Elliott.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. I was kind of upset, but it is what it is, I guess.
Your boys, they were fighting,
Yeah.
scrapping.
Allgaier always seems to mess up at some point. He's almost like Larson. It just he pushes too hard at some point, even though he's got the fastest cars, and he just ruins his day and others' days. But
Man, I'm glad you're not a fan of mine. Uh, just constantly putting your drivers down, man. I mean, you're right. I got nothing to argue with you about, but man, that's tough. Tough words for little Gator there. But yeah, that's it does seem to be the case that eventually Justin Allgaier is going to take himself out of a position when he has one of the fastest cars, for sure. Dale Jr. gets his first win as a crew chief. Connor Zilic gets his first oval win, even though it's not an oval. And I was kind of pulling for that. I'm sure that you were a little bit once your boys took each other out.
yeah, once that happened, and I figured, all right, Zillage, you're our last hope for any happiness. So,
Last hope for happiness.
uh,
Um, yeah, and then I didn't watch the truck race, but you said that the finish of that one was kind of interesting.
yeah, I mean the final restart, whatever. I don't really remember much from the truck race other than bringing us the final restart. Uh, Corey Heim dominated and got a flat tire coming to a late race restart, and uh, Carson Hocevar moved up into the lane Heim was in, and Lane Riggs didn't know he was the control truck, and so he slowed down because he didn't know what he was doing. And Carson decided, all right, well, if he's not going, I'm going. And then NASCAR penalized Carson Hocevar, and Lane Riggs took the lead and didn't look back from there.
Yeah, and Lane ends up getting the victory, and Corey Heim loses another one. But as they said on Door Bumper Clear today, it's probably a good thing that Corey Heim has some bad luck every now and then because we would just be talking every week about him winning every race if he didn't.
Yeah, he'd probably, like I said, he'd probably have 8 wins by now. He's still 124 points above the next guys, so um, he's cruising. I mean, if he had all those wins, he'd be locked in the Final Four already.
Yeah, pretty much. Anything else from Pocono that you wanted to talk about?
I don't got nothing.
All right. Um, I have just a couple other things here. We already talked about Carson Hocevar's deal uh, from the Mexico City comments. NASCAR talking about going to San Diego. It does seem like they're targeting big city markets rather than the small rural areas like we've historically seen. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like seeing NASCAR go to the big city route or don't care?
I mean, if they're gonna do street courses, I think that's where you got to go, the big cities or whatever. I mean, I don't think you want to. They're gonna bring it up to Erie or something like that, you know. Um, I mean, if they're gonna do street courses and they go to San Diego or New York or places like that, I guess I don't have a problem with it. If that's what they want to do, if it's a revolving thing, then I don't really have a problem with that. Um, it's one weekend a year, so um, I think I don't. I think the rural comment things. I know there was some uproar about that, but I don't think it was meant as they didn't want any of the rural people or whatever. But I don't see NASCAR putting a street course in the middle of a city with 1,000 people that live around it. So I think if you're going to do street courses, it's got to be the big cities. But the tracks that I just don't see them building new tracks like they used to. I feel like things are, I don't want to say filled up, but it's just with so many rules and regulations nowadays, even keeping the tracks we have open is becoming a tough thing to do. So I can see their point in some ways, but I just really, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, same here. Um, I'm good with a street course race. I don't care if you move it around every year. If you go to Chicago one year, if you go to San Diego, if you go to LA, if you go to Seattle, if you go to New York, if you go to Miami, whatever. I don't care. However you want to do that. Um, but I think that I'm good with one street course race. I don't want to see multiple. I want to see Sonoma and Watkins Glen, and I'll do one other road course, and that's it. Then I'm tapped out on road courses. I don't want to see any more road course races other than that. I don't want to see the Charlotte Roval. Um, I'm okay with Coda, I guess. Um, what else do we got in there? I can't think of anybody else, anywhere else that we go. But if you wanted to go to Road America or Road
Mexico.
Atlanta
Yeah.
or Mid Ohio or yeah, if you wanted to go to Mexico, give me an oval. Like I'm okay with going international, but I don't want to go to a road course. And I understand there aren't as many in those places, but find me one if we're gonna go international. Like this is the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing. Give me an oval. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to show up and say, "Hey, look at our cars." It's here's a good racing product. Come watch this. And we move so much further away from that all the time. And Pocono is a prime example of that. Um, so yeah, that's all I got to say about the road courses thing. Too many of them, tired of them. Um, we caught some flack on our YouTube for a comment that we had about Shane Van Gisbergen saying that he didn't deserve to be in the playoffs, which I don't think we actually said that he didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. I think it's a throwaway spot. Like Shane's not going to compete for a championship, but it's there should be more value placed on the win and shouldn't necessarily automatically propel him into the playoffs. The comment said that, oh, he's kicking all the American drivers' butts on these road courses. Yeah, no kidding. I believe it. There's a reason I picked the guy to win the race. I believe that he is the best road course racer in the field. No doubt about it. He's not the best race car driver in the field. That's the problem. And he even said on Dale Jr.'s show last week that, yeah, there's some improvement coming on the road or on the ovals, but due to the shorter practices, they don't have time to get a feel for the actual racetrack before it's time to qualify. Then they qualify in the back and they just compounds every week and they never have the opportunity because it's so hard to pass to get up any further as the race plays out.
Yeah. I don't hate the player. You hate the game. That's what SVG does on road courses. I find incredible. I have nothing but respect for SVG and what he does. I just the way the system plays out and how they're using him to get a playoff spot for the money and stuff. I just feel like you need to be more well rounded all the way around. I mean, the Cup guys can still improve on the road courses, but you'll still see Cup guys that are consistent on the road courses that are good on ovals too. So, but I mean, I just nothing against SVG or anything, just the way the system is set up to help him is what I really don't like.
No, I agree with that. And like Tony Stewart, when he raced, I could respect his talent. I didn't like him as a person from like a fan's perspective. Same thing with Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch. Like I respected their on-track talent, but didn't care for them as a person. I think Shane's a likable guy. Like I have no issues with seeing him win. I'm happy when he wins. And it's just he's not a playoff driver. Like that guy doesn't deserve to compete for a championship with his full capabilities as a race car driver. So I'm sorry. That's just the way that it is. Um, I think that you could see him get there. Connor Zillett should be the same way. Like he's a very good road course racer. He's developing on the other tracks. He doesn't deserve to compete for a championship right now, but I think he definitely will get to that point.
I mean, if you look at what Connor's doing with ovals lately and stuff, I can see him being all right to compete for championships. I don't know if Zillage was the best example, but um, yeah, but yeah, I just what Shane does on road courses is incredible, but I just feel like he's not gonna fight for a championship or anything. That just the way his ovals work out. So I guess that's just all I got to say about it.
Yeah. Are you interested in spotting for Ricky Stenhouse?
No.
I heard they might have an opening.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the whole situation about it, but
I heard he had a negative experience in Mexico City. He tweeted about that experience, and he didn't even say anything as harsh as Carson did, from what I understand, at least not from what I read, and still lost his job.
yeah.
I don't know if
Um,
they were just looking for an excuse to get rid of him or what the deal was there, but it didn't take him long to pull the trigger, that's for sure.
yeah. I know some people argued that he himself was the reason why he had a bad experience using some street vendor or something for currency change, but um, that he got screwed on or something like that. But uh, I mean, you should be allowed to tweet your experience and whether you like it or dislike it and not get fired.
Yeah, I would think. I don't know. That's just kind of an odd experience. My only familiarization with Tab Boyd is that he used to be Joey Logano's spotter prior to TJ Majors, and I was like upset when they made the change to TJ, and then TJ would actually turned out to be one of my favorite spotters that Joey had, and I don't have any issue with Coleman Presley now, but um, it I don't know. It just he didn't seem like the type of guy that seemed like a bad guy, and I was just surprised that that's what the result of that situation was.
There's just so much political correctness in the world today that you just kind of got to watch your mouth anymore.
Yeah, but I feel like we've almost moved away from that a little bit since the last 6 months or so. I feel
Yeah,
like we really built toward that to where you had to watch everything that you said and you had to be so careful and comedy was almost dead and then it just seems like all that kind of died down for a little bit. And apparently not in NASCAR.
evidently not.
Is there anything else that you want to cover from NASCAR this weekend?
I don't really got anything else.
What are you thinking for Atlanta? It's going to be a night race, going to be um, what do you think? You think it's going to be wild? Do you think it's going to be basically the same thing that we have seen? Do you think we're going to see one of those crazy finishes like we've seen recently? What's your prediction?
Um, it was shaping up to be a really good finish until that caution came out on the final lap because they were, well, they I mean they were three wide when the yellow came out, and but um, I think it'll be a decent race. It'll be better than the normal restrictor plate races. Although I still can't wait till I think eventually this track will go back to its normal mile and a half setup, but um, I think it'll be similar to what we had in the spring, maybe hotter, maybe it'll be better with less grip with the heat in the track, and I'm kind of looking forward to this based on what we've had the last few weeks. So that's what I'm thinking about it.
I agree. Bracket challenge starts this week. You and I are going to fill out a bracket, tell everybody who our picks are, and who we absolutely are going to stink at picking, who's going to get upset. What a racetrack to start this thing with because anybody could wreck at any given moment and it not be their fault, and somebody could get a good finish and that they of none of their own volition.
Yeah, it's what is there? You got this Atlanta, a couple road courses, and it's going to be a lot of upsets, I think.
Yeah, probably right. Probably right. So yeah, we'll get the bracket out to people so they can see who some of the best pickers in the NASCAR world have come up with for each round, being that we're very successful at that. Appreciate everybody watching this week, especially with me being frozen for most of the time. But yeah, I guess hearing my voice is all that matters, right? Uh, how do you feel about, just real quickly here, how do you feel about us moving away from Prime's coverage?
Um, Prime coverage, I think, is some of the best TV I've watched with NASCAR because in reality, I thought they almost made the Pocono race more exciting than what it really was. Some of the tech they had, like with the fuel usage and stuff, I don't think I've seen that before. Um,
Yeah,
the long no caution periods or no commercial periods, I should say. Um, it was, I just you were able to watch more of the race even during commercials with the side by side, that was pretty much all they had. There wasn't very many full screen commercials other than they were under caution or stage periods. So, um, I think some of the same crew is going to TNT. So hopefully announcing wise and stuff, they're going to be just as good, but there may be more added commercials than what was on Prime because Prime can do that with their subscription base. And yeah, that was a pretty good experience last 5 weeks. I was kind of skeptical about it, having to pay for an extra subscription, but if they ran on Prime all year with that same crew, I'd be ecstatic and probably cancel all my other TV subscriptions just to watch that. So I thought it was pretty good, and hopefully TNT is still good with the crew they have.
Yeah, I agree. I came up with an idea years ago that I thought it would be great to have uh, just a sports streaming package, and you could pick your favorite team, and no matter what they were on, you got to watch if you paid a certain amount of money for that. So, like being a Pittsburgh sports fan, all the Steelers games, all the Pirates games, all the Penguins games, all the races, all the NASCAR races. If I could pay for something, if that was $80 a month for all that, I'd pay that every month. I don't care about any of the rest of the TV channels. Just give me that. That's all I want.
Yeah, so it's like I got the YouTube TV. All I watch is Fox, FS1, NBC, whatever. What is it? USA or whatever the NASCAR's on. And the rest of the year, I don't watch anything else on it. So, if we can just pay for that sports package, it'd be great.
Yeah, I agree. I should call somebody about that idea. All right, well, that'll do it for us from Pocono. Um, Not a great race. Looking forward to a better race at Atlanta. Sad that we're moving away from Prime's coverage. We'll see what kind of trouble Carson Hocevar can get himself in this week. We'll talk to everybody after Atlanta. Thanks.